The Black Oxygen Inspiration Podcast is sponsored by Black Oxygen Bangin' Barbecue Sauce. Makes your taste buds sing. Order it now at blackoxygenmusic.com. Everyone, welcome to the very first episode of the Black Oxygen Inspiration Podcast. Really appreciate this guy picking up the phone when I called him. Excited to come by. Would like to introduce a great friend of ours, a living legend, a platinum recording artist. You may know him from his song Butterfly, the one and only Shifty Shellshock of Crazy Town.
How we doing? What's up?
Yeah.
Thanks for coming by the crib. How you doing today?
I'm wonderful. It's a great day to be alive, man, every day.
Absolutely. To get this show on the road here, what would you say was the really special moment when you decided you wanted to be a rock star? Like the backstory that maybe some people don't know something about Shifty, you know, from
it's
maybe
a cool
your family.
Story. I mean, every musician has their story, and mine's.
I was excited to hear
cool.
what maybe yours was.
Okay, mine was. Well, I was. My parents, my dad.
Yeah.
My dad was in advertising, and basically he worked with Chess Records, and he did a lot of album covers for blues artists.
That's awesome.
And long story short, he ended up working for Marshall Chess, who was the son of the guy who started Chess Records, and he managed the Rolling Stones. So my dad got the gig of directing the first rock and roll documentary, which was Ladies and Gentlemen, the Rolling Stones. And
that's so cool. I've seen that. Yeah, I remember that. That's awesome.
Yeah, they just did a re-release of it. So that was my dad's, big thing. He did this film, and it was really a beautiful film. It still is, and it's really captured them in their 30s. It's timeless film.
Absolutely.
So basically, he met my mom while they were making it. So I was conceived around rock and roll. Like my dad was shooting it, met my mom, and so I was born. So basically, even though my dad wasn't a musician himself, he played music. He was like this fucking artistic, rad, hippie, stoner, fucking, he had drug issues, that ended off rubbing off on me, but I took it to a whole new level. And then, but basically,
but
I
you're
grew
at a better place now.
A much better place. And, always growing, learning. I'm very wise. I trial and error.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, I'm born, my dad would take me to blues shows and so just being around music, I fell in love with music. And then
that's awesome.
When I discovered my own music was basically, I lived in Marblehead, Massachusetts. I was born in LA, but my dad would get these jobs we want you to be the head of this advertising agency in Boston, and we're going to give you this much money. And he'd be like, we're fucking moving. So then, so I'd move around a lot, but I enjoyed it. It wasn't I felt, so I went to Boston, and in Boston, I discovered self. So I just started finding the things that were special to me. My dad listened to more rad music that I still love, but
who's your favorite artist growing up that really inspired you?
I mean, well, let me get to you. So basically, I found punk rock music. There was a guy who was in a rad punk, there's a rad punk rock scene in Boston, and there was a guy down the street, and I was a little skater kid, and his name was Bonesy, and actually a really sweet, but he's in a pretty legendary band called Straw Dogs that was around for a while, and just classic Boston, just punk. But what's cool is he would I was the little kid down the street, and he would rehearse. The band would rehearse in his garage, and they'd let me watch. So I watched right away, and I looked up to him, and I was like, he's a badass.
Yeah.
And he was actually a really sweet guy. He took care of his grandma, and he had but he also looked like he'll murder you.
Right.
So it was a good contrast. I saw that you could be a badass and still be sweet.
That's absolutely. That's the way.
And so he ended up passing away
Oh.
So it was really like rough on me. He got in a car accident one night and I heard he died. And I went around with my spray can and wrote Bonesy Forever all over town. Yeah. I got in trouble for that. But it was like my first experience with like looking up to someone who died. And then I worked at a little skateboard shop. I always worked at skateboard shops. I was really into skateboarding and worked at a bike shop, like was into freestyling. Long story short, they go hand in hand with music. So I would listen to a lot of hip hop, and basically my uncle lived in Brooklyn, and that was the first time that like I found hip hop culture. So I'd go to Brooklyn with my dad, and they'd be working on an art project, and I'd go out in front, and I was just like, 10 years old on my skateboard, and I went, and that's where I got my first boombox, and I saw like the whole culture. That's where I got my first Puma suit, my first Pumas. It was like, and then I would see these kids in rap battles, and they'd stand in circles.
For sure.
And so basically, I was chasing Run DMC, would drive down the street in their limo, and I'd run with all the kids and chase them. And, many years later, I got to tour with them. So it's like all these cool things. But what really, like I think made me want to do it is a couple things. My dad took me to see Purple Rain, and it was at the neighborhood theater.
Great movie.
And I watched Purple Rain. I was like, this guy's a fucking badass. And so like I kept sneaking in the back door. I must have watched Purple Rain like 8 times when he gets like the white guitar and like
I love it.
He was just smooth with the chicks and stuff. I fell in love with that. Then when I was moving back to LA just in time to destroy shit, when I was just about 13, my dad put me in Mexico. And I was already breakdancing. I was already listening to like Run DMC and stuff. But when I went to Mexico, there was this kid, Jonas, who had this older hot sister that I had a crush on. And they would roll around in this Jeep and they would play Beastie Boys. And I found the Beastie Boys and fucking was like, this is it. It was like the perfect balance of like punk and hip hop. And it just was like, it matched with my identity. I was like, this is me. Yeah. So I started writing rhymes, moved to LA, was heavy in the graffiti scene, and always had a rhyme book. It was like, I was just that kid with a little backpack. I had my raps. I had my hands were always covered with like paint from writing on everything. And, so I excelled in those things. I was really bad in school, but like I was very creative, and so basically like I worked at Rip City Skates in Santa Monica, and I wanted to be a pro skater. So I was, and it was just the timing was so like I was in Venice Beach skating every day and working at Rip City, and like the dopest skaters in the world, like the most legendary guys are coming in, and like they're like, "What up, Seth?" And I'm like, putting together their skateboards, and they're giving me, and I'm getting sponsored by like Astro Deck and all these like Santa Monica Airlines and Jesse Martinez and all these like, all the Alva boys, Jeff Hartzell and all those cats were like, they just, I was the little badass and they kind of embraced me. So I thought I was going to be a pro skater. Ended up like, and then I ended up like, there comes a crossroads. I think I got injured. And I was like, I'm going, like, which one am I going to do?
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going for music. And so then by that time, I was like, I was going to junior high, and I was with DJ AM. That's awesome. There was Stu Dog, and there was Jesse Phelps, like my best friend. And we, got a mic. Jesse got some turntables. We used to, rap over like, Premier Beats.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And listen to music. I was also like, went through a really heavy like reggae stage. And, my first rap name was Kid Kaya.
Oh, yeah?
So I was like, but, I knew what I wanted to do. And then like,
the
little egotistical little skater kid, like, I was like, I'm the next Crisscross. And I was like, I'm blowing this shit out the water. And then, you get a little older, but like, I went to school with Will.i.am, and me and Will.i.am, and Bernard Williams, and we would go out after school. I went to the continuation with the bad kids. Yeah. And, Will was in the good part of the school doing amazing. But like, we had that bond of like loving hip hop and rapping, and Will and there was a kid, Ahmad, who we went to school with, who wrote the song Back in the Day, blew up. And then, I think Will and him used to battle a little, but like Ahmad came up first, but Will, obviously.
Yeah.
Won in the end, as he should. But anyway, so I guess, you fall in love with something, but there was a lot of music is one of those things that you have to love it.
Yeah.
And
100%.
also when you bet your whole life on it, I was rolling around, but I always was confident, even though people would be like, bro,
it takes a lot of sacrifice.
You're a dreamer.
Yeah.
I'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's just
we can relate to that.
I stuck to it and you make it work.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think I got really lucky. So lucky. I was like, did I just do that? But, and then, I think there's more issues.
Yeah, I think that's what's really, we have a lot of friends entertainers and stuff. And the one thing I really like about you and your heart is you're a great role model to people someone that has had fame. Like you're a very chilled, down to earth gentleman. And I think that is just incredible, because sometimes people get really big heads, and I like the fact that you're just thankful that you had a massive hit. You know what I mean?
I did, and I still have the same. Then I wrote the song on Paul Oakenfold's album that killed it, which was good for me because Butterfly wasn't it's just what I do. Now, a hit song, as you learn the music business, that was the right label, the right time, the right push.
Absolutely.
I have songs that I think are just as big.
Yeah, and
that have 100,000 views.
Sure.
And then that one, it's
absolutely.
So it's the music business is very but that song was magical. Plus, it had the right machine behind it, and it did big things. That's why "Sorry I Surprised" did well too, because it had Madonna's label behind it.
Right.
So it's sometimes some of the best albums ever might not have done that well. They're still my favorite records.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
other than those songs too, for everyone watching, if you listen to the Crazy Town records, some of the best songs, in my opinion, are the ones that aren't the massive hits. There's all types of great
and
material.
our fans know that. There's Brimstone Sluggers.
Yeah.
The label fucked up.
We
made a cool record.
Yeah, I love the song "Change." It's a beautiful song.
And Change is that's my baby. Change is beautiful. And I wrote that with my best friend Tommy Kane. So. I've learned a lot, and one thing I do is even though I've gotten really confident in songwriting.
Yeah.
What I've done is I've met so many creative people and never stopped learning. I met Will.
Yeah.
And I knew Will was better than me. And I was like, I just need to kick it with Will.
Yeah.
If you're dope or you intimidate me, teach me.
It's
I
fun to learn
from
things from other people.
And I think that's what it is. It's not oh, fuck that guy or
No.
It's I always I love the art. And so right now I there's Tommy Kane, who I found in a homeless shelter, when I was on top of the world, and now he's directing movies and he's kicking ass, but he was this young creative kid that I, was living on the streets, and I found him, and he gave me a demo. He ended up getting a multi-million-dollar deal with Ted Fields and whatever, lots of shit. And even then, I meet these kids who, they're different from me, but I know they're special. And sometimes kids who I would bet everything on, they make these records and they have all these hit songs and they never blow up.
Yeah.
And now he's making films, but his destiny is a different thing.
Right.
But I learned so much from him as a songwriter. Or you take my boy Mike Rebel, who has had Dre producing him and all these crazy things over the years. One of my favorite MCs in Los Angeles, and he hasn't blown up like I did. I got lucky. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I've continued to be lucky, and my new record, I'm working with young artists that you would never So I think I've been very fortunate for the songs I made to stand the test of time. Yeah. They're still being placed in movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
People know them.
It's even in
kids whose parents played them love them still.
Yeah.
So yes, I could have played my cards better and become whatever you might, but this is my journey, and it's been fucking beautiful, and it's been cool, and I've had my highs and I've had my lows, and I've grown, and and I still am alive and making music that I love.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. You know, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
path I chose, and I'm doing it, and I'm very happy. You know, like it
That's
doesn't
what's
always
important.
like you can't be number one forever.
Right.
I mean, some people have gotten close, but I'm just saying, like, ultimately, like,
Yeah.
life is highs and lows, and you know, your business will do great some years, and other years it'll fucking do okay, and you like
Absolutely.
struggle through it. But that's like part of like growing. Like, if it was
100%.
always good, like, I would never have, like, you know, the wisdom I have of being able to deal with life and
That's a fact.
what life throws you, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. And I think what's so cool about Shifty is I've seen when we were on tour together, hanging out in the hotel room together and traveling
so much
together.
fun.
One thing that I witnessed firsthand was, looking out for the new superstars. Like we performed Butterfly live with them at the Whiskey Go-Go recently.
Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar, baby. That's a sexy, pretty little thing.
And we did a single and video called Burning Into the Night.
The past is a blast, it's all about the present, and I don't need to die to be a fucking legend. Elevated youth, punk rock adolescence, a sword from a stone and a king from a peasant. Another night on fire, another night on fire.
But I think that that's such a cool thing, like looking out for the newcomers and the new superstars. And when I was even watching Sing One like a bit ago, and they
It's
even have it in
crazy.
there. But it's crazy. And we were watching a show. What was that show on, Nick?
About the Von Dutch show.
Yeah, the
and
Von
that's
Dutch
like the
show.
intro song.
I mean,
It was all through the
I'll
theme
be
and
sitting
everything. It's
I'll be
great.
sitting at on Sunset here, like Pink Taco, the restaurant, and when we're just hanging out with some friends, and it comes on everywhere, like still today. And regarding that song, what before that song happened and took place,
right.
did you know that was going to be a hit? And also, too, what was it like signing the record deal and the process up to that,
Okay,
like,
well-
with the business people involved?
It was a weird situation. Like, what happened was we were making songs, and I remember, like, we were shopping it, and we were down. Like, I had been in LA causing trouble.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was friends like with all the like bands.
For sure.
But like, when we started making the first record, I remember we were working with Danny Ostro from Trauma Records, and he kind of left Trauma and was like, I'm going to help you guys do this. And he did. He kicked ass. But what happened is we were doing songs and we were developing our sound and incorporating, we weren't just a hip hop thing. And me and Brett, wanted to do something different. We were these kids who grew up on hip hop and Tribe and, the Beastie Boys and Run DMC and Rakim and all hip hop classics. I mean, I could go on for days of who we grew up on, but then there was a new wave. Like, obviously me and Brett were like we wanted to do something like a modern Beastie Boy type thing. Like, we want to incorporate instrumentation and like take that to a level with new modern sounds. Yeah. So meanwhile, there's bands like Korn and bands like Rage Against the Machine. And I'm like, I fucking love this.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's bring those guitar tones instead of the ones like the Beastie Boys used on License to Ill. And let's, so it was just fun to like put something like that together. And then the next thing you know, but Butterfly was more organic. I remember I wrote the song Revolving Door that I had written while I was in rehab. And I just wrote that little line and I was like, that's hilarious. And so I wrote that song, but it was just like a fun, silly song. It was kind of like our play a song. So I wrote that song, and I remember like my girlfriend at the time, who I ended up writing Butterfly about, I played it for her, and she was like, yeah, this is rad, but like, why don't you write a nice song about a girl? And I was like, I could do that.
Yeah.
I was like,
Sound like a girl.
I mean, I grew up on LL Cool J. I was like, I could write some sweet shit.
Sure, what's up?
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so I was like, I'm gonna write something about her. And so long story short, she would like go off. She was like working, whatever, and modeling. And so
Was she the girl that was in the video?
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, she would go off and I was like, on parole and drug testing and like in all this trouble, and I'm selling weed out of her mom's back house. And like, I was just a classic little troublemaker. But anyway, so I wrote the song basically. And I remember I called it Epic. I was like, yo, Epic. I'm going to do a song about my girl. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, no, dude, we're going to do this shit. Basically, you know, we had this little thing where I would like give her butterflies all the time. So I remember I was like thinking of what I was going to name the song. And I was like, Butterfly. And, you know, it was a very natural thing. That's why like a magic happened, is it was just like, I wasn't trying to write a hit. Exactly. I just wrote, it was like a little piece of poetry I wrote to my girl, and it was like special. Awesome. And I remember like, you know, I was on some stoner, like fucking earthy shit. And I was like, it needs to sound like Under the Bridge.
Yeah.
And so Brett, who's like, you know, that's the other thing. As I hear motherfuckers like, oh, they have a hit and they sampled the fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers. And it's like,
it's only like the 5 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what hip hop is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now there's a creative sample and there's a fucking sample that's kind of like,
it sounds totally different.
Like for instance, if we had sampled Under the Bridge, it's like, bro, you took a hit song to make your hit song.
Which people do all the time now, right?
What we did is we listened to the album and we found some obscure little thing called Pretty Little Ditty, which if you don't know the Red Hot Chili Peppers or listen to like Mother's Milk, you would have never heard it. Right. So we didn't take, that's why they cleared it. Mm-hmm. It was like a whole thing. They said every time we get a sample, it's someone sampling one of our hits.
Right.
They said this is, I believe it was the first sample they had ever cleared. And they said because sampling is an art and you did it the right way. You took something that was obscure on our album and made it into something new and special. Yeah. And that's what sampling is.
Exactly.
I mean, if you want to talk about people who have had hits with sampling, like talk shit to Tupac, talk shit to Dr. Dre. It's like understand that I'm a hip hop kid who added instruments and wanted to rock.
Yeah.
So like for me, I sampled a dope little obscure fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers thing. And not only did they clear it, but their management picked us up and the Red Hot Chili Peppers took us on tour. So it's like the Peppers co-signed that sample.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, you know, there's always these people who bring it up. And long story short is like, you know, even Starry Eyes Surprise.
How did that
a sample? These it's like that's what I do.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, don't be surprised if I find another dope sample and blow up again. Like, you know, it's like I will continue to do that, you know? And we write original stuff. Like our whole new record is original, but I'm not against sampling something or creating something
Totally. It can just add a new texture, just like bring a song together that wasn't before.
Well, I mean, the art of sampling, if you want to like, you know, like that's what hip hop artists are doing since the beginning, like SP1200s, you know, MPCs, like it's about sampling and 100%. Taking something and twisting it and putting a new beat on it and making it into something cool.
Right.
And you can do it in a tacky way. Or you can do it in a way that's like paying tribute to an old song, which is another way that's not tacky.
Right.
Like you could take an old hit and 20 years later reinvent it and it introduces it to a whole new generation. And that's cool.
Yeah.
You know why? Because the kid who wrote the shit 20 years ago is fucking old and now he's getting paid.
Exactly.
So he ain't mad at you.
Everyone's happy.
Cover my shit.
Right.
You know, so
100%.
Like I can't wait until fucking somebody does a massive, like, successful cover of Butterfly. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Absolutely.
And and after your the first two records, the when you did the Starry Eyes Surprise, that one went to be on as well. How did that happen that it got on the Epic Collabos album? Like Ice Cube was on there, like, right? There was
no. Here's what happened: is Paul Oakenfold, who's one of like. At that time, he was at like the pinnacle of being like
I think there was like all types of big people on that record.
He had worked on Ray of Light. We're talking about Paul Oakenfold. Is still a badass. But I'm saying at that moment, Madonna signed him and said it was like when DJs were becoming. You got to realize now DJs, Diplo, like these motherfuckers are rock stars.
Right.
So Madonna saw that a long time before it happened, and she saw Paul Oakenfold and said, "I'm going to make you an album. You're a DJ." But I want you to go do songs with all these amazing artists. It was actually Guy Oseary. Wow. And Guy Oseary doesn't fuck around. Like he's a badass too. And so anyway, Guy Oseary and Madonna and Maverick Records, who have found some of the dopest bands ever. Yeah. Like some of my favorite bands like Prodigy and Deftones. Like that's Guy Oseary and Madonna. That's Maverick. So basically what happened is he did some remixes of Ray of Light and Madonna, like everyone was getting into electronic music. So basically that album I was just on tour, and my boy, who I heard recently passed away, Wyatt Newman, rest in peace. Oh, wow. It was in Seattle, and he came and he's like, yo, Seth, I'm taking you out. We're going to go see my homie, Paul Oakenfold. And I was like, cool. Yeah. And so we get in the car, like I got a day off, and we go to this rave. And I remember like it's a trip because when we walked into the room, I saw these kids, and I used to go to raves and like break into warehouses, and I was into that shit when I was little. Okay. So when I walked in there, I was like, oh, this shit is still going on. Because I had been on a totally different trip with Crazy Town. For sure. But my boy Wyatt brought me in there, and I see all these kids with like glow sticks, and they're fucking on X. And I was like, there's strobe lights everywhere. And I was like, I remember how much fun I had doing that. And the smoke box laser beam flashing lights, like those lyrics were already going through my head before I met Paul when we walked up to the booth. Then I got up to the booth, and I was like, this motherfucker, like, it was this massive thing, and he was DJing, and I was like, it's like he's fucking out there singing. Right. It was like,
yeah.
Like now, obviously EDC and like it's established, right? Like DJs, but at that point, like I hadn't been seeing many DJs. You know, and if I did, it was like some hip hop cats, like Mixmaster Mike. So anyway, so I saw that, and I was like, this is fucking dope. And he was like, butterflies are smash. It's fucking amazing. And he's like fucking DJing, and it's all loud. And I was like, thanks, bro. And he's like, takes off his headphones. He goes, come here. He's like, I'm doing an album with Madonna, and I want you on the album. And I was like, word. So basically, he's like, I got Nelly Furtado and Bono and Perry Farrell. And I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, that's
so anyway,
that's
like
crazy.
I wrote. So then I went back to my band, and probably had like glitter on me, and I like just came from the rave, and like they're all like on Ozfest.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I just went to a fucking rave, and I'm doing a song like for Madonna. And they're like, dude. And I was like, you guys want to do it? And they're like, no, that's all you.
Damn.
And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do that shit. I was like, so long story short, he sent me like 3 beats. Then I found Ice Cubes on the record, like all these people that I'd grown up loving. So anyway, I didn't do it. Like Butterfly's already blowing up. I was like, I'm doing this shit just to do it. Yeah. Let's try some shit.
Yeah.
So he sent me the beat, and I remember I was on the plane flying home, and I was writing the lyrics in my little fucking book. And fucking, I remember at Brett, I was like, yo, Brett, you sure you don't want to get on this shit? Like we'd always tease each other. Like we didn't have, like that's what makes like, me and Brett working, like I like some shit he doesn't like, but I was like, I'm about to do this fucking house shit. I'm about to do this dance track. Sure. And I wrote it. And then I remember I came back into town. I just rolled by a studio. Paul wasn't even there.
Oh, wow.
And he had his guy there, and I went in, I laid the vocals, and then Paul came in later, did his shit to it. And it was just on the record, didn't even think about it again.
Yeah.
And then I was off doing in my little fucking psychotic world, and I get a call, and Guy Osiri's like, yo, check this out. I spent millions making this record, and I put out 2 singles, and it's just not hitting the way I want it, like I need it to.
Yeah.
He was like, I put out Bono, and I put out, like, I think he put out the Nelly Furtado one, and the record was at like 200,000. It just wasn't popping.
Oh, wow.
So when you're 2 singles in on a record, it's kind of like, I need to figure out which song on this record is going to make it work. Yeah. And he called and he goes, Seth, I'm sitting here deciding what the next single is. He goes, and it's between you and Ice Cube. And I think I'm going to pick yours. And I said, I never thought with like those people that mine would be a single. I just wrote that shit for fun.
Well, it's a great song.
So what I noticed is just like Butterfly, I wrote it. It was a pure little song that I wrote like just for fun. It wasn't like I'm going to write a big smash. And that was another example of something I did for fun. And those are the ones that have seemed to work.
It's like you could feel that in the music too.
Right. So I wrote it, and he said, I'm going to pick yours. He said, and we got the same director as the Butterfly video, and we just kind of like tried to duplicate it. You know, like we were like, let's just do what worked and see if it works again. And so like, right then, we were putting out the new Crazy Town record, and me and my band are arguing, and they're like, there's no butterflies on this record. And I was like, but that's the one that worked. And they're like, but we need to show how fucking we're more than Butterfly. And I was like, I know we're more than Butterfly, but maybe we should make 1 or 2. And they're like, no. So then basically, that was like basically not Butterfly, but it worked.
Yeah.
And that record came out, and it took the record from like 150,000 or 200,000 to 1 million. Yeah. And I got to tour with him. And I went to all these fucking rad festivals. I played for Nelson Mandela in fucking South Africa for like millions of people. And I got to like travel with him because that song ended up being pretty successful. I mean, to top Butterfly is difficult, but that song was a hit. Like that definitely was a hit. It went platinum. Oh yeah. I took it to platinum with my single. Yeah. So like,
and that went to be on, you added that to your... So
that ended up being a whole Coca-Cola campaign for 2 years straight, the Sparkle campaign.
That's
it was
crazy.
on I was getting checks from Coke. It was dope. Like, there was that whole Sparkle campaign with the girls on roller skates, and there was all like fucking before they did the Sparkle app, and there was like Sparkle billboards, and that shit was like in every country around the world. And what was cool is I get like 10 or 15 grand for every continent from Coca-Cola. So I would just go home and there'd be like Italy. I'd be like Germany. I was like, keep them coming. Like, how many? And it's Coke, so they kept coming. Every country in the world started playing that campaign, and then obviously it ended. But that song was good for me. It was cool.
And that you added that to your Shifty solo album, right?
Well, here's the deal: that song did well. All right, this is a fucked up story. So that song did well, and Madonna and Guy were like, "Well, sign this kid."
Yeah.
Then they signed me, and I go in and I make a fucking record. I did a bunch of more songs with Paul Oakenfold that didn't make the record. And basically what happened is Guy Oseary was dealing with the fact that Madonna was selling the label and leaving. So what happened is I'm a new artist, which like takes like development. Like I was saying, like the reason it worked at Columbia is because they had a strong marketing team. They had all those things. So I had a record that was great. Yeah. But literally the week before my record came out, and we were like, I had a whole staff helping me design everything. I walk in and everyone's fired. And I was like, what the fuck happened? Man. Where is everybody? And they're like, Seth.
That's the nightmare.
We're in the middle of, we were just bought by Warner Brothers, or like we're moving and Madonna's leaving, sold the label. And the cool part was this guy Oseary said, all of our new acts aren't coming out, but we're putting out your record.
Wow.
He goes, the only people we're keeping are like
the tops.
Like the badass motherfuckers, like Fiona Apple or whatever the fuck. Like they're keeping the people that Warner Brothers would love to have on the roster. But they're like, we're going to send you over there and we're going to put out your record and see how it does. But what happened is there was no passion. Like guys dealing with like, oh, I'm got to move over to a new label. And like, it was just the whole label was in disarray. So I didn't have the same marketing team that made Starry Eyes Surprise work.
Yeah.
So once again, I was fucked and I threw a temper tantrum and I was like, fuck, why me? But like, obviously I internalized it, but it was really just
the
wrong
way
timing.
It goes, right? Yeah.
So what happened is I ended up at Warner Brothers. They sent us, it went top 20, like did top 10 in Europe and like certain places. I was on TRL. Like I had a great ride with it because Starry Eyes Surprise was doing great. So like the label sent me to all these fucking amazing festivals everywhere. Like I went on tour with like some pretty cool people, and basically what happened is it was kind of like a similar thing to what happened with the Madonna record. Is he put out one single, didn't do exactly what they wanted,
right?
Then they put out the second one, and then they said, you know what, Seth, it's a great record, but we're just not in a position to make it work right now. And I was like, cool, whatever, fuck. And so I just moved on. And I think that record, like you can't sell a million records every time. I'd like to, unless you have like the machine and the fan base.
Totally.
So like, that record is just another record I made, and it was a cool part of my life, and it still had the one hit from Starry Eyes Surprise. And that's just, it is what it is, man. I have a lot of friends who made fucking amazing records. They didn't have a hit at all. So I think, you put out records and like Dark Horse, the record that we put out after Butterfly that doesn't have a butterfly in it. It's one of my favorite fucking records of all time. I love Dark Horse. Like you were talking about change. So like our fans, and what I'm blessed about is like to this day, I can play any country in the world and I can pack up a room.
Yeah.
It's like there's a generation and their kids who still love Crazy Town. And I'm so grateful for that. Like I can go, like a lot of bands do well in one country and they go to Europe and everyone's like, who the fuck are they? Like,
right.
We went platinum in 19 countries. Like it's a cool thing. So
globe.
and me, the dreamer that I am, like I have I have a new Crazy Town record that's like, I'm progressive. My songwriting is better than ever. And like, if I put together the right pieces, like I'll have the biggest moment of my life. Absolutely. It might not be one song bigger than Butterfly, but it might be four in a row that do well. But it's a new world. Like the marketing music, there's no fucking MTV, there's no nothing. Right. It's like, okay, I'm going to make some noise. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to fucking, I have the new Crazy Town record, which I love. I'm going to start a record label. I'm like, we were talking about like new talent, finding artists. Like I'm passionate about that. Like I am naturally an A&R person. There's always some kid in a garage going through some shit who's going to be the best next thing in the world. And that's what's dope about music, is you never know where it's going to come from. But, if you put your feelers out there, when you see it, you'll know. Yeah. And some people, they just go right under the radar. Like there's musicians that are fucking probably the best thing in the world. And people like, it's so hard. Like nowadays you have to be a fucking phenomenon on TikTok or something.
Yeah,
it's like,
right.
It's like,
it doesn't even have to do with the music
missing.
sometimes.
Like it was way different. Like there aren't like punk bands from LA that are doing showcases and become the next Nirvana. Right. It's a weird different. World. Like you talk to a label and they'll be like, "What are your numbers on Instagram?" And you're like, "Oh,
How about we do a song?"
Yeah. It's like, how about you don't use that and you fucking put out a dope song and you promote it like
the great music,
and make something that's special. Have 10 million followers instead of need the 10 million followers to invest your money.
Right.
Because that's what was cool about the music business is like you could find like, whatever it is, like you find a girl living in her fucking car and she's fucking writing these little songs with her guitar. And the next thing you know, she's on MTV and she's fucking, living in a house in the hills. And that's like the magic of what used to be there that's a little fucked up now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like fostering the art.
I believe the music business will find a way. And I believe it does have a way. Right now it's working. There's so many rad new like fucking groups surfacing, but it's a different world than I was in.
Yeah.
You've lived a lot of he's lived incredible, wild, adventurous life of great memories.
What would you? Most people have done the shit I did unalive.
I've heard before, just bits
like I'm the guy who did. Like those childhood dreams of throwing TVs through windows and fucking doing hard drugs. Like it ain't all that I thought it would be. Like it's been very. Like I've lost a lot of really close friends. It's been brutal.
That's the reality.
But like I did get, like I am the kid who is like, I'm going to fucking be a rock star and destroy shit like a lot of people. And I destroyed it beautifully. Yeah. I destroyed everything beautifully. I spent the money like an insane person. Yeah. And I fucking lived. Yeah. Like I did the shit that a lot of people don't get to do. And there's a lot of like, I'm tortured by it. There's a lot of stuff that, when you watched it when I was little, watching MTV, being programmed, by MTV, like watching fucking the Beastie Boys break fucking, smash fucking beer cans on their head. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, watching it, like, car accidents and hot chicks and like, and then you get there and you're like, wait, this isn't what I wanted. So it's a trip. But then you live through it and you like navigate your way through it. And sometimes I navigated my way through it by like, doing huge amounts of drugs, which is never the answer. So like I've learned and experienced so much shit. You can't teach experience. No. Like you can talk about it, but like, homie, the shit I've done, like
I remember we were in a hotel room in Canada.
And I'm not bragging about it because a lot of it is like fucked up. Like you don't want to do it.
Sure, yeah.
But like, I have to look back at it and be like, holy shit. Like, look at that shit. Like, I have to digest it in my own way, which is like, and I have to like look at it and learn. And I'm learning still every day. Like, I scare my fucking self sometimes, like, and at the same time, like, I'm getting older and I'm like, love yourself, man. Like, I want to live. I don't want to hurt myself. I want to be healthy. I want to be a good father. I want to, all these things that weren't in, because I was moving so fast that I wasn't paying attention to it. And so, like, some people, pass away and some people live and some, and we all have a different experience here we're here for a very short time. So like now I can look back and be like, whoa, how the fuck did I live through this? And what am I going to do with it? How am I going to use it to help other people or talk about it or to become the best version of myself and not put myself through that anymore. So it's like there's always a challenge in life.
Always.
Yeah, I remember we were in the hotel room in Canada, staying in the hotel, and I heard bits and pieces. There was a story that some might hear in there, like, oh, that's not true, it's like a movie. But there was a story I heard bits and pieces of when you escaped the celebrity drug rehab and swam across the water and everything.
Yeah, that one is like a movie. I mean, that one.
What's the best nutshell of that? Like, what was that?
I mean, that's just an example of the insanity I was dealing with. Okay, you give a kid who's got a drug history in the family, right? Mm-hmm. So like, and you got to remember, like, some kids see their parents doing drugs, and I even did. Like when I saw my dad doing it, I saw it ruin him and my mom's relationship, and I remember crying and saying, "Please don't do that drug." Like I was a little damaged. I was like, don't make mommy cry. Mm-hmm. But then I believe it was like when I was disgusted, like my friend died when I was younger, and I was so like devastated by watching my friend die. It was the first time I watched someone die, that I wanted to do the worst thing I knew. So I went out that night, I tried cocaine. Then I tried cocaine, and I was like, ooh, this shit's kind of good. Because any drug is going to have, maybe a lot of people try a drug and don't like it. I tried it. I fucking loved it. I felt great. Yeah. So then I was like, now I see what dad was doing. So then I started doing it. And then like being in the circle I was in, it was like so much. And so I had drug problems. I had problems with the law. I had fucking all this shit. I was a fucking little wild teenager. Like I was out of control. Yeah. A good heart, but fucking nuts. So like I'm fighting. I'm fucking getting arrested. I'm doing graffiti. I'm fucking, going to fucking shows, like fucking hip hop shows, like Too Short and shows and shootings. And I'm like laughing, having a great time. Like, like I was in, sneaking into like Water the Bush and, hanging out with Rhyme Syndicate. Like I was in it, I was that little kid who was in it. But along with it came a lot of fucking, dark shit. Mm-hmm. So basically what I'm saying is then you give that kid, I was on fucking probation or whatever you want to call it, parole from Chino State Prison. And I just had like the scare of my life fighting this case. And then I get signed. Yeah. And then my record blows up and I went from a kid who's having, selling fucking 20 sacks or grams of cocaine at the club to like, have a good time. And all of a sudden I'm fucking getting checks from the Coca-Cola company and motherfucking Butterfly. And I'm going to my mailbox and I got 70 grand of checks from around the world. And like life was automatically changed and I wasn't in a place. It happened so fast that I enjoyed it, but then it was too big. There's things I didn't like about it. And all of a sudden all that money and all the drugs and then like, there was a mixture of the kid who was like, I've done it. I'm going to fucking spend this shit. And it wasn't like, this is the only song that's going to do this. I should save all this for a rainy day. It was like, motherfucker, I wrote that shit in 2 hours. I'm going to write that shit. Like, I'll write that shit all day long. But then everything else, like, because I can write that shit all day long. But that's not what went wrong. There was like friction with my band and my brothers. But I see their side of it and, whatever. But long story short, I fucking fucked shit up. I spent did huge amounts of drugs. And then you give a kid who's already got addiction problems. I was already walking to AA meetings every day. And then you give me a fucking couple $1 million. It's just fucking, watch the fuck out. Yeah. So that's what it was. And like.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we were on tour too, when we were on tour together, they were traveling and they.
But we have so much fun.
They had a
like, for instance, like. Shit's great sometimes. Like I'm saying, I go on tour now. Some shows, like I'm like, who the fuck booked this? And it's like so random. But it's like I love those shows. Yeah. I love playing for like those people that like, because I told my booking agent, I want to play every fucking dirty club in the world. Yeah. I want to play every Viper Room. I want to play every hole in the wall. Yeah. I love those want to go places. Because there's no MTV. So how am I going to get people to hear our new album if the record label's fucking sitting on their ass? I'm going to go and play it and I'm going to fucking kick ass. Yeah. And I'm going to like, these people are going to come out because they heard Butterfly and like, those guys Crazy Town are in town. But then they're going to come and be like, oh my fucking God. Right. Like, what did I just see? And it works. You go around and those people are like, man, I have a personal connection with that band. I hung out with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Totally.
And so you're leaving little seeds around the fucking universe of like, we're dope. Don't forget that.
Exactly.
Buy our record. Follow us on, social media or whatever the fuck it is. And so like, I believe that that's like the most personal and effective way to market yourself.
Yeah.
As well as like shit like this, where you can hit 1 million people at once, or hit 100,000 people at once. Like now I'm going for the podcast. It's like, it's some smart shit.
And that was crazy too. Cause when we were traveling, I remember I was just, it was on like Fox and all these news stations when you guys hit the moose when you were traveling. And thankfully you guys were okay.
See, now let me explain to you. My story is just fucking uniquely like, I'm like, wow, how these things happen to us.
What was the moment by moment in the vehicle?
I'm not the only motherfucker. How many motherfuckers got a big record deal, fucked shit up, crashed cars, blew all their money? It's like almost like it's happened 1 million times. Like my story is just my story, and like my story is pretty fucking crazy.
Oh yeah.
My version of destroying shit and getting a big record deal is pretty fucking epic.
I think the message from God is that through everything you've been through, and even hitting the moose, He wants to keep you alive to serve good.
Exactly. Or yes, but it gets deeper than that. Like,
what is it?
Like, I think we're all here. Like some people, like we're all here to like reach a place of like growth. Or like, or to, like I might be living but that's selfish. Because what I realized is maybe I lived through all that shit because like my kids need me. Right. Or I need to be there, or I'm going to make an effect on other people that kid's like, maybe I'm just a fucking middleman. Maybe I'm going to find an artist that never would have been found if I wasn't alive. And then it's destiny. So it's not maybe God wants me to be the messenger. It's like, no, I've been lucky enough to live, and like, let's see why I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll write a book, or maybe, I'll make something that people like, something beautiful.
Or inspiring,
or something
people,
inspiring,
like right
or something changing. And maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just fucking get my fucking shit together and be a good fucking dad, and my kid will fucking invent something that saves the world. Like, who knows what the big picture is, But I'm just going to keep doing what I love. I'm going to keep making music, and I'm going to be the best person I can. And we'll see what it is. Life is, it's not always the way you'd want it to be, but it's always interesting. It's always
interesting journey.
A learning experience. Yeah, it's an interesting journey. And it's, like always expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
Like my dad says, every time you make plans, it's not going to be exactly what you planned.
Yeah.
It's a different version of your plan. Yeah. Or your plan will lead to another thing that you end up doing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Real. So like you guys are fucking making barbecue sauce now.
Yeah.
Rock and roll barbecue sauce. Yeah. And that shit is like in fucking Walmart.
Yeah, it happened.
Like, I'm down. Let's make some butterfly barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
Because like when you did it, I thought like this is a novelty thing. Like that you're going to have at your merch booth, and then that shit's in Walmart.
Yeah, it's in Walmart, so other stores in the country. But that was something that came from the universe. That wasn't your plan. That came. When
you thought of the name Black Oxygen, you didn't see it as barbecue sauce at the beginning.
No, it's Black Oxygen banging barbecue sauce.
Right?
Yeah.
It's an extension. It's just what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Like you made it, right?
If a year and a half ago, someone said you're going to have a barbecue sauce 2 years ago, we wouldn't have even known. But Nick's always been a great, cook and a chef. But also too, we'd like to thank.
Well, I know that shit keeps blowing up. Do you need to sponsor our tours?
Barbecue sauce.
Yes.
I don't know.
Speaking of it, here is a gift for you.
You know what?
You can try it on there and taste it.
Okay.
Let's get the Shifty review.
I know that Roland and ET have a bottle, and Roland was using it and said it's actually pretty fucking good.
Yeah. So let's
normally when I get something like this from like a homie, it hasn't been barbecue sauce. Normally, like I've seen like Sublime beer.
Yeah.
Or novelty like beers, or like I think Alien Ant Farm did one.
Okay.
But the barbecue sauce is a new twist,
Let's get the Shifty review of the sauce on.
Okay, so now we're on a cooking show. Okay.
Right here, everyone.
Black Oxygen.
Banging barbecue sauce. Walmart online. It's
just blowing up like butterfly.
It placed fourth in the country last year. The National Barbecue and Grilling Association.
Exactly.
He's never tried it yet, so I'm curious.
You're
to
like,
see.
it's got a really
And
catchy riff.
first, if you don't like it, I want to know too. So I just want your honest
Dude, that'd be
opinion.
fucked up. You guys are my homies. Even if I don't like it, I'm gonna be like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do you dirty like that.
I like honesty.
No, I like honesty too, but
The
like,
better.
but that, you know.
Oh yeah.
She's bomb. It's good. You're lucky.
Happy you like it.
If that shit was whack, like,
Yeah, we could talk about it
I'd have
different
to
time.
look like I liked it, but like, be like, fuck, give me some water.
Right.
We could talk about it a different time, collabing on a sauce, together.
You know what, bro?
Yeah.
In this, I don't give a fuck anymore. Like back in the day, it was like, oh, you're fucking selling out. It's like,
Right.
I think it's cool to
Nowadays-
venture.
Changed.
Nowadays, like the kids, it's like you don't make money from record sales anymore.
Yeah. You
So
gotta
it's
be
like,
going for it.
it's like now artists are doing fucking Apple ads and this and that. It's like, get your money, homie.
yeah,
like
exactly.
live your life. Take
Yeah.
care of your family. Have fucking fun.
It's fun to venture and do.
I never would have thought you guys would fucking become millionaires through the barbecue biz, but it's a good angle.
Yeah, it's
a good
fun
angle.
to adventure off, do different things, and like now I'm directing and writing different videos and stuff. But it's cool to evolve as you get
You're
older.
doing porn?
No. Music
Well,
videos
no,
and stuff
joking.
like that.
I'm joking.
But
You're a director.
but no, it's fun to evolve in all different levels. And
But that's what life's about, man. You gotta
Yeah,
evolve.
exactly.
Like who would want?
about growing.
That's like when I make a new record and they're like, "We want that old school shit." And I'm like, I will always be that old school shit. Like I am
Yeah,
the music.
right.
But if you think I'm gonna make the same record 10 times over, like get fucking lost because I'm
Yeah,
gonna
for real.
evolve and I'm gonna listen to what kids are doing and I'm gonna try to make a record that my old fans like and that kids who fucking have never heard Crazy Town still can connect with.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to I'm always trying to be progressive or try new things. And that's what it's about.
absolutely.
For sure, man.
in the I remember when I heard was mentioned a bit ago. I heard like bits and pieces before, but you were hanging out like with like a drug lord and out of the when you escaped that rehab.
There's like several podcasts
I remember it was
about the
crazy.
island.
Yeah, crazy.
I think you need to get the money. We'll make the movie because
That's a
I have so many more stories.
I
that are
heard
fucking
should be
bits
a
and
movie.
pieces of that, and I thought that would be just an incredible thriller movie. And
would.
that's why I kept bringing it up because I think that needs to be a movie.
It does need to be a movie.
And whoever's watching, if you want to get
If you've got
fund
like
the movie,
fucking $10 million, if
that's why I mention it. I think it's incredible.
we do
movie to
that
be
movie
made.
though, we got to get like,
Yeah. Who would you see playing yourself?
I don't know, at this age, I would play, you know what? I would probably have my sons play me as a
That's a
younger
good
version.
idea.
Yeah.
But like actor wise, like, I don't know who could play me good. Who would play me good? Think about it.
I think that having your son play you would be
I think that's,
great. Yeah,
I mean, they
great.
all look like fucking.
like an NWA.
They all look like me,
Ice
just they're
Cube's
cuter.
son played him.
They're cuter
as
than
well.
me, because
Yeah.
they had cute moms. So like, but I
Absolutely.
think my sons would be good.
Absolutely. To close it out, what is, being the Inspiration Podcast, what is something Shifty, you would want to tell everyone to inspire them, maybe
To inspire them.
with everything you've learned
See,
in
I'm
life.
fucking up.
Don't worry about that.
To end it on a
I
positive
need a
note.
bib.
To end it on a positive note. Like what's like one thing you would tell
Right here on
everyone
the
to
coast
inspire?
here. Fuck them. Fuck them. Fuck them all. Do what you want. Follow your dreams. Be the fucking best
I love that.
badass
I
you
love
can
that.
be.
I love that.
Yep.
Well, everyone,
100%.
be sure to subscribe and follow all social media,
All social media, everything
blackoxygenmusic.com,
Black Oxygen,
barbecue sauce, merch, and Shifty. Where should everyone follow you at?
Just go to The Real Crazy Town. I think that's the simplest thing.
Make sure
Awesome.
and
I
look out
have
for his new
Facebooks and all that
podcast.
shit, but like I'm not active on them.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you go to
Your
The Real Crazy Town on
you are.
Instagram,
Yeah.
it's really me.
Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
So you can talk shit. You can call me.
Yeah.
You can hit me up. You can do whatever. DM me. Or you can just
Absolutely.
watch my
Absolutely.
journey.
We'll love you. Love you, buddy.
Love you, man.
Always a pleasure.
All right.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we're going to have more incredible
See how
guests to
good
come.
of a dog she is? She just chilled.
That was a great
So
dog.
stay tuned.
Take a nap.
We'll see you
See
next
that?
time. Peace.
All right.